Trump Truth Commission. This is T+9. This is Thursday, November 12th, and election is over, but obviously still being contested. This is a two-parter, really, hitting on the voter fraud issues that is coming out. And it's not just the voter fraud, because that's a valid concern. It's the massive misinformation by the Trump group, and then also by his supporters and their acquiescence to what he's saying and doing, which is spreading massive misinformation and not really focusing on key things. So, so this is going to be the first thing, and the main thing here. I have something on the Curtis page, basically on the website, but it's called "They Should," and it's really just talking about Republicans standing up. I'm a former Republican. It's okay to stand up against somebody who is so extreme and just bad, and still have your conservative ideals. So that's what they should do. And the focus in what I wrote there was more that you know, the greatest disservice is not the one who does it, but it's the all who support it. And that's what we're going to hit on here. It's you know, we're not focusing on Trump, but we're focusing on the Republican enablers. And this is basically, and this is our night and day comparison. This is Republicans now versus the day of Democrats back in 2016.
Let's not have any lectures, no lectures about how the president should immediately, cheerfully accept preliminary election results from the same characters who just spent 4 years refusing to accept the validity of the last election.
We, of course, were all very disappointed, not more than disappointed, hard to accept the results, but accept we do. The peaceful transfer of power is what America and our democracy is about.
So there's your comparison. Republicans now, Democrats back in 2016. But this election is actually won by a greater margin of the popular votes. Hillary Clinton won by 2.1%, I think, and Biden is winning by about 3.5% roughly, so it's a bigger margin there. Electoral votes are virtually identical. He won 305, I think, back in 2016. Trump did. Biden is projected to be about 306. So they're relatively equal in that regard. And yes, there's massive allegations of voter fraud by Trump and the Republicans. But the reality is that none of those are proven, and they're not evidence of wide-scale voter fraud. So it is okay, and it is possible for Republicans to stand up and do the right thing. Support challenging the election with facts and evidence, but do not support the massive amounts of misinformation coming out from the Trump family and the Trump supporters. So that's it.
South of the border, U.S. President Donald Trump's refusal to concede the election is now being supported by the Republican Party.
But it's now thrown the transition to President-elect Joe Biden into disarray.
So these types of allegations are merely there to cast doubt upon the integrity of the results. He's filed these claims in cases all over the country, but only in states where either he's lost or where I think he suspects that he'll be losing. And it's really unprecedented.
If you look at the margins in these key states, they're clearly just too wide to be overcome by a handful of court cases. But even if the president's attorneys lose every single case, they have still succeeded in riling up the president's base. Anthony?
Okay, so here's some examples about what's happening. And the Nevada Attorney General really lays it out very clearly. It's unfortunate, but this is the Republican strategy. So here you go.
Well, let me back up and give you what their run of show is, if you will. They began all of this by first saying they want to limit who could even register to vote. Then they tried to limit those who registered from voting. And then they tried to keep those from voting, from those who had voted, from having their votes counted. And so they have, at every step of the way, attempted to undermine this sacrosanct franchise of voting. We have defeated them at every single turn. And
so Republicans, stand up. So here's what the Texas governor is doing.
In Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is offering up to $1 million to incentivize, encourage, and reward people for reports of voter fraud, even though there has been no evidence of any there.
So that's not how our process is supposed to work. So the Texas governor is basically offering massive financial rewards for claims of voter fraud. And really what he should be doing, and what the Republicans should be doing, is supporting the election system. Stop denigrating and undercutting the election system. Support the election system. Identify where there are real flaws and explore those and do that legally. But don't promote misinformation. Don't dangle millions of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars for people to come up with claims of voter fraud. That's not how it should be. Here's some examples from the South Dakota governor talking about things that are small items that they make into large ones.
Governor Noem, do you have any evidence that it wasn't an honest election? You put out a tweet earlier this week saying it was rigged. Do you have any evidence at all of widespread fraud? I've spoken with Republican secretaries of state in Georgia, in Arizona. I've spoken to Republican officials across the country. They have come up with zero evidence of widespread fraud.
And that is not true. The New York Times itself said that there were clerical errors.
If you look at what happened in Michigan, fraud, Governor, that's
that we had
different.
Computer glitches that changed Republican votes to Democrat votes. You look in Pennsylvania, dead people voted in Pennsylvania.
Al Gore was behind by about 500 votes in one state, Florida. Joe Biden is ahead in all of the close states by multiples.
And look at how many more moving parts we have today.
10,000 votes in Georgia, 27,000 votes in Nevada, almost 20,000 votes in Arizona, more than 30,000 votes in Pennsylvania. That is not close. That is not within the margin that elections are usually turned around on.
So stand up. Don't be promoting small amounts of voter problems, basically, or election problems, and making them into an evidence of massive systemic voting fraud and challenging the entire election. Don't do that. Just stand up for your conservative beliefs and support the results and challenge them legally with facts. And here's your example of day, night, day. Unfortunately, the night is the Republicans and what they're doing, and they need to stand up. The day is the rest of the world, or most of the rest of the world, and then going back to 2016 and what the Democrats did when they had to accept the election results of Trump winning.
Now, from America's allies around the world, including Israel and Saudi Arabia, there have been the normal diplomatic niceties.
And one of the very first messages to come to President-elect Biden was from the United Kingdom.
The entire world watches the U.S. presidential elections every 4 years with particular attention. Again, American voters have chosen their president-elect. I want to congratulate Joe Biden as the 46th president-elect in America.
And top Republicans are rallying to support the president's refusal to concede, as Nancy Cortez found on Capitol Hill.
Senator, have you congratulated Vice President Biden yet?
No.
Why not?
And Secretary of State Mike Pompeo sent shockwaves when he appeared to dismiss the election results.
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Other Democrats swiftly came to terms with Trump's victory. Proof.
We must accept this result and then look to the future. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
So I have instructed my team to follow the example that President Bush's team set 8 years ago and work as hard as we can to make sure that this is a successful transition for the president-elect.
I want to offer my congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump and wish him well for the American people.
We, of course, were all very disappointed, not more than disappointed, hard to accept the results, but accept we do. The peaceful transfer of power is what America and our democracy is about.
77 million plus and counting.
So there you go. No comparison. It was not easy for Dems in 2016 to accept the results, but they did, even though it was a very narrow margin. It can be done now. GOP can stand up, do the right thing, stand up against Trump and Trump's family and the enablers and say, accept the results, do the normal transition process, but go ahead and legally challenge the way you have the right to do it, but do it with facts and evidence, not with massive amounts of misinformation. So that's what they should do. Oh, and I'm hearing the music.